has Indiana back in the playoffs since 2016, which is huge. Yes, she does. Caitlin's a big part of that.
Even in this statement, Sheryl can't fully give Caitlin Clark her due credit. Yes, Clark led the Indiana Fever to their first playoff appearance since 2016, a monumental achievement for any rookie. But Swoopes glosses over it, perhaps because it highlights a reality she's not ready to face. Caitlin's impact in one season surpasses what many players, including herself, could do in years. Make sure to like and subscribe. The debut season of Clark was simply spectacular. By setting marks for assists, points, and three-pointers by a rookie, she redefined what it meant to rule as a WNBA newcomer. Although it might not have resulted in a title, her 25-point, 9-assist effort in Game 2 of the first-round playoff series against the Connecticut Sun confirmed her rank among the league's brightest performers. Though she does not have a title, Caitlin is clearly confident about her future. She stated, "The fun part is I feel like I'm just scratching the surface." And that's precisely why Swoopes cannot truly appreciate Clark's brilliance, because her rookie year alone has already threatened to eclipse Sheryl's whole career. Clark proved her ability to lead under duress by carrying the Fever back into the playoffs, almost willed against the Sun. Her eagerness to admit where she still has room for development reveals the unrelenting passion that will make her a future superstar. For Swoopes, this is the essence of the problem. Caitlin Clark is meant to be even better than she is right now, and that is a difficult pill for a legendary like Swoopes to chew on. Ultimately, Sheryl's resistance to acknowledge Clark's supremacy could be a result of something more, an awareness that Caitlin could very definitely surpass all she accomplished in her own legendary career.
What I said was I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would come into the league and dominate immediately, which I don't think either of them did.
This is the point at which Sheryl Swoopes' ego begins to exhibit signs of degeneration. Shockwaves have been sent across the WNBA as a result of Caitlin Clark's controversial first season with the Indiana Fever. Not only did Clark come in hot, but she also did something that Swoopes never could do. She dominated from the very beginning. Swoopes is having a hard time wrapping her brain around this fact. It should come as no surprise that Sheryl's aspirations, and more crucially, her legacy, have been completely broken by Clark's meteoric rise.
But I never said she's not going to come in and dominate immediately over all the rookies.
Here, Sheryl tries to walk back her previous comments, claiming she never denied Caitlin Clark's potential to dominate among rookies. But this is another move to soften the blow of what actually happened. Caitlin didn't just dominate rookies, she outperformed veterans, broke records, and shattered expectations across the board. Sheryl's attempt to narrow the scope of her argument shows just how much Caitlin's success has rattled her. Clark hasn't just proven herself among rookies, she's dominated the entire league, and Sheryl knows it.
Everybody else, they're quick to throw stats, right? It's like, oh, well, this is what she did. Like somebody's like, oh, Sheryl Swoopes only scored 34 points in the WNBA. Caitlin scored 35. So you can't use stats when it benefits you.
Now, we watch Sheryl desperately trying to find an excuse. Swoopes disregards Clark's numbers as if they are of no consequence, despite the fact that they say volumes. The blow was taken to a more personal level when Caitlin beat her record for scoring in a single game by 1 point. The truth is that Caitlin Clark has already surpassed Sheryl's accomplishments, despite Swoopes' best efforts to downplay the significance of the situation. Also, it is consuming her life force.
I feel like after the break, I still don't think she's dominating, but she's a different player than she was in the first half of the season.
Swoopes is relentless in his efforts to change the rules. Clark has changed as a player during the All-Star break, but not in the way that Sheryl expects him to have changed. Her performance continued to improve, further solidifying her position as one of the best players in the league. That is something that Sheryl is unable to acknowledge. As an alternative, she continues to insist on the narrative that Clark has not actually dominated, despite the fact that he has led the league in assists and has put up stats that are career best after the break.
I never questioned if Caitlin was a good player. I think she's a hell of a player. And my thing was, no, I didn't think she would come in and dominate. I thought it would take her some time to adjust to being a professional.
Attempting to cushion the blow, Sheryl is going backwards in this situation. On the other hand, let's be honest. What she didn't anticipate was that Caitlin Clark would almost instantly make such a significant impression. In light of the fact that Clark was able to adjust so rapidly and did not require the grace period that Swoopes had anticipated, it is clear that Sheryl's confidence has become severely damaged. She had no idea what was going to happen, and now she is frantically trying to defend her first interpretation.
Dominate
and they
immediately.
didn't.
And here we are once more. Swoopes is remaining true to the story she initially told. It does not matter what Clark accomplishes. Sheryl is adamant in her belief that Caitlin did not dominate right from the beginning of the competition. What is the truth? Not only did Caitlin Clark triumph, but she did so much more quickly than Swoopes could have ever dreamed. Swoopes' rejection is not solely motivated by the statistics. Rather, it is an attempt to maintain her fragile sense of superiority.
I think they both maybe exceeded expectations,
Yes.
but I don't think they dominated. Right?
As it turns out, Sheryl's uncertainty is beginning to take hold. In this day and age, she is unable to even commit to her own argument. Because of the success of Clark's season, Swoopes is unable to speak clearly and is uncertain about what to think. While it's possible that Clark went above and above what was expected of her, Swoopes believes that she is the only person who can truly dominate the WNBA. According to the fact that Clark has already exceeded her, Sheryl's argument is losing steam, and it is losing steam very quickly.
Has several double-digit assists.
Sheryl begrudgingly acknowledges Caitlin's incredible playmaking ability, almost as if she's forced to admit the obvious. But that admiration doesn't last long, as she's quick to undercut it with another excuse.
But you got turnovers, right?
Yep.
You're leading in turnovers.
Yep.
Swoopes can't resist nitpicking, pointing to Clark's turnovers as if that somehow negates her achievements. Yes, Clark has turnovers. But isn't that part of being a playmaker who's constantly involved? Even in her criticism, Sheryl fails to see the bigger picture. Caitlin Clark leads because she takes risks, something that helped her dominate in her rookie season.
But do you factor in what she's given up on the defensive end?
Yes.
And now, Sheryl pivots to defense, attempting to find a new weakness. But here's the reality. Even if Clark has room to improve defensively, her offensive contributions far surpass any deficits. Sheryl's focus on nitpicking every flaw is a desperate attempt to downplay the fact that Caitlin Clark's rookie season was better than Sheryl's own, and deep down, she knows it.
Olympic break, I think Caitlin Clark has been a hell of a player every single game. I think Angel Reese, to me, Angel may have exceeded expectations even more so than Caitlin.
Last but not least, Sheryl makes an attempt to deflect by praising Angel Reese, but even this gesture is ineffective. Despite the fact that Angel's talent is not in question, the topic of discussion here is Caitlin Clark and the ways in which she has altered the game. The fact of the matter is that Clark's first season, which broke records multiple times, has eclipsed even the most talented players. What about Sheryl Swoopes? The fact that she is unable to acknowledge that fact is further evidence that Caitlin has completely and utterly ruined her. As a result, it is quite evident that Caitlin Clark did not merely exceed expectations, rather, she completely annihilated them. Sheryl Swoopes, who was formerly considered an untouchable force in the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, is unable to accept the fact that Clark has accomplished what she once considered to be impossible. Caitlin Clark has not only broken records, but she has also broken Sheryl Swoopes' ego. She has done this by redefining what it means to dominate as a rookie and breaking records. In the context of Caitlin Clark's debut season, it is important to note that it has surpassed all expectations, both those of the supporters and those of the naysayers. For the time being, he has been averaging 19 points a game and 8 assists. Those two marks are both among the top 10 in the league each, and the vast majority of those who are opposed to Clark, also known as Clark naysayers, have been hiding in the shadows for almost 2 months, just waiting for the right time to strike. As an illustration, take the case of Sheryl Swoopes. Sheryl Swoopes is doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on her terrible Caitlin Clark takes, as seen by the fact that she wrote this sentence. At the same time, Sheryl is making a very tiny adjustment to the goalpost. Sheryl is once again attempting to come to terms with the idea that Caitlin Clark is simply that talented. This is because claiming that Clark is not dominant is not meant to belittle her in any way. In terms of Clark's performance this year, he has 19.5 points, 8.4 assists, 5.7 boards, and an unparalleled shooting percentage. Clark finished as a rookie ranked 8th in points, 1st in assists, 1st in points created, 7th in true shooting percentage among guards, 1st in three-pointers made, and 4th in fourth-quarter points per game. He also ranked 1st in assists and 1st in points generated. The season that Caitlin Clark has had has been one of the most dominant seasons for any player. Not only first-year players, but also all-stars and superstars in the game. Her dominance has been clear. In black and white, as transparent as crystal, everything is present. The section about Sheryl Swoopes suggesting that Caitlin Clark isn't dominant is very humorous. And here it is. Sheryl herself was not dominant by her standards at any point in her career. If she honestly believes that and truly thinks so, then she certainly does not believe that. Sheryl's greatest year is somewhat superior to Caitlin Clark's first year of competition when compared to Sheryl's experience. Sheryl Swoopes was, without a doubt, the most dominant player of her period and was awarded the Most Valuable Player award. In the same way, Caitlin Clark, who is extremely similar to Swoopes and is also a rookie, is one of the most dominant players. The two of them were both players that dominated the game. On the other hand, Swoopes is unable to say that of Caitlin Clark for reasons that are not quite clear. The moment when Sheryl was stopped right there, she was starting to make sense and was making a point that was coherent. However, it naturally devolves into complete and utter insanity. Caitlin Clark's performance after the All-Star break is not dominant, as stated. I mean, if Clark isn't dominant after the All-Star break, then there isn't a single player in the history of the Clemens League who has been dominant. As of the break, Clark had the following statistics: 24.7 points, 8.9 assists, 5.5 boards, and a true shooting percentage of nearly 100%. During that span, Clark had a game that was the first of its kind, a 30-12 score, 5 double-doubles, and 1 triple-double. Mitchell and Asia Wilson were ahead of him in terms of points per game, and he was third in terms of assists and made 3-pointers. On top of that, she scored 35 points in her most recent game, which is a really significant achievement because it is one more than Sheryl Swoopes' career high of 34 points had been. In the event that you do not believe that Clark is dominating after the All-Star break, I mean, you are smoking rocks, you are living in another universe, and you are not dealing with reality. In that instance, even Asia Wilson, who is the most valuable player, is not dominating the game. In the end, what this boils down to is Sheryl Swoopes shifting the goalposts and altering the criteria itself. If we are going to begin comparing the statistics of collegiate athletes to those of professional athletes, then the entire history of sports as we know it will be altered. Someone like Clark, who played college basketball and scored 30 points per game, is not dominating enough to do the same thing as the professionals. It is entirely out of control.